Alright, for this right here, no intro, we're just getting straight into the video, but actually, you know what, before that, I want to issue a disclaimer right here. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at the title, and they are excited, and don't worry, this is technically what a jailbreak is. However, for people who are expecting that all of a sudden they can now take a file and put it on their PlayStation 4 and get instant access to, you know, modifications, ROMs, emulators, games, anything like that, no. No, it is nothing like that, and it's nothing close to that. The act of jailbreaking is what has happened right here. However, that is still going to be another milestone that we need to get to. So for anybody who is wondering what the point of this video is, I'm going to explain it to you all. So right here, as you all know, I don't do news very often. However, this was pretty big right here. So there was actually exactly a week ago on December 6th, there is a developer who is working on the PlayStation 4 named CTurt who ended up saying that he announced a kernel exploit for the system. Now, what does that mean? That means that he had access to the kernel, or he was able to, you know, essentially break into it. And this is how previous modifications on Sony systems and a multitude of other systems had worked. You find a type of exploit or loophole, you find a way to exploit it, and then you were able to modify the system from there. All he said was that he had found the exploit, and that was it. But nothing really public came out of it. Well, today, he just said that he has officially, quote-unquote, jailbroken the PlayStation 4. This is quite exciting right here. Now, he said in a few tweets, one of them he said, just broke WebKit process out of a free BSD jail. Guess you can say the PS4 is now officially quote-unquote jailbroken. And he also said can successfully dump RAM from other processes like SCE Shell UI using ptrace. Next step is patching RAM. So for anyone that doesn't know that much about this exploit, I'm going to put the links down below to this and the previous news article from PSX Hacks about this. I'll also put my friend Dopesoner's video down below as well too, because he actually did a video about the kernel exploit. I was thinking of doing one, however I want to see something bigger happen, but honestly, I wasn't expecting to make a video about this a week after that was released. So, for anybody who is wondering as well, I'm also going to read this. Now, this is from RadicalGames.net, cross-posted to PSX Hacks, and then quoted, roughly translated of course, but quote right here. CTurt, through a tweet today, has confirmed that the PS4 could be said has already been hacked. We are still very green as to this issue, but we have been having concurrent information. Apparently, it reports that could be effective for firmware higher, but that is waiting to be confirmed. For now, only those who are in 1.76 could soon enjoy their consoles released. I was reading that console bundles of The Last of Us come with this firmware for those who still have not bought already to have to start. As more information that will seep noted by the leave here. Now, I swear I talk much better than that, but no, that was the rough translation and I was quoting it right there. So let's go ahead and look at this. What exactly does this mean? Well, first off, we had the kernel exploit that was announced last week. That means that we are now able to access the kernel on a raw level on the PlayStation 4. Now, when it comes to this exploit right here, essentially he has found a way to properly exploit that loophole in the kernel or that break that he has found, meaning that with this jailbreak, we are now able to quote-unquote unlock the system, which will then lead on to the stuff we love on jailbroken consoles like the PS3, such as, you know, complete access to emulators, you know, loading up ROMs on there, anything like that, games from a USB drive, all of that fun stuff. But I will say this, I'm actually quite impressed with this because I was not expecting this to happen so soon. Now, for anyone that does not know, I was expecting these consoles to get hacked maybe a year or two down the line from here, not about 2 years in, because the PlayStation 4 has been out for a little over 2 years at this point, and it now has this. Granted, you can't do that much with it, but you now have access, like complete access technically to the system. However, one, you cannot do too much with it, and two, you also need a system that is running 1.76 to do anything. So for anybody asking for a tutorial, it's not going to be happening anytime soon because there's really nothing you can do about it, and you do need to get a hold of an older system. So what are my thoughts? What do I want to have happen here? First off, I think this is fantastic news. Second, I think it's awesome that now the PlayStation 4 is technically up there with the other hacked systems. We had seen the Wii U, this actually happened. So loading, you know, came out a few months ago, which is now an option that you can load games on the system just through your SD card, like full retail games and everything. And that has made some decent progress, but there's not that many developers behind it. But that even suffered the same fate where you had to have a system on an older firmware, and the exploit that was used was announced, but nothing came of it until about a year later. So just hold your breath on this, because it might be a while until we really see anything completely concrete on here, but this is still a huge step in the right direction. This isn't just something like a NAND dump or anything like that, or technically a NOR dump. This is an actual jailbreak, a loophole to get complete system access right here. Interestingly enough, now this means that the only system this generation, the 8th generation of consoles, that has not been hacked is the Xbox One. At least nothing has been announced publicly. With the Wii U, if you have a Wii U on 5.3.2 or lower, you can use things to exploit the kernel and then use programs such as Loading and other types of programs. With the PlayStation 4, if you have a system on 1.76 or below, you will be able to, soon quote-unquote jailbreak your console. But with the Xbox One, we're still waiting on something publicly to happen, so let's see what happens there. A lot of people might say it has stronger security, and it might, but I also think there might not be that many developers who are really zeroing in on the Xbox One, so we'll see what's going on there. Now, what do I want out of this? Personally, there's two things I want. One, there's a PlayStation 2 emulator now on the PlayStation 4. It actually looks pretty neat. I want, this will be, probably a few years in time here, but I want something similar to the PlayStation 3 jailbreak, where, in case you did not know, yes, there were certain types of backwards compatible PS3s, but if you jailbroke your PS3, no matter what model it was, if it was jailbroken, you could actually play emulated PlayStation 2 games on it. I want to see that same thing happen here. I want to take my own games, rip them, and repackage them to run on a jailbroken PlayStation 4 with all the nice little upgrades, features, and all that stuff. Of course, they're not going to all play 100% properly, but granted, there are a lot of PlayStation 2 games that I own that I would love to play on the PlayStation 4, but I don't want to pay for them $10 or $15, for digital copies when I already paid, $20, $30 years ago for the physical copies that I still own. And second, for God's sake, I want a way to play games off a USB drive on here. It's kind of ridiculous. With the Xbox 360 stock systems, you can play games off a USB drive. Xbox One, play games off a USB drive. I honestly think you can even do it on the Wii U as well, but the PlayStation 3, no. The only way you could play games off a USB drive was if you jailbroke the system. And the exact same thing is happening here with the PlayStation 4. Yes, you can upgrade the internal storage, but you cannot play any games off a USB drive, and that has been something that Sony has really been adamant about not removing or anything. But hey, with this jailbreak here, I can see that easily happening, especially since something like Multiman is going to come out, eventually here. And that's another thing. A lot of people are going to expect something like that right now. No, even if you look at early revisions of Multiman, it was extremely basic. It was really nothing. It didn't have any special features. All it did was load up a file, and that was it, and load up your game. While as with Multiman, the newer versions of it on jailbroken PS3 systems, there's a lot more, and it's a super versatile program. One of my friends that actually got into jailbreaking early on and then got out of it saw Multiman later on, this a few years ago, and was quite impressed with it. So with all the impressive stuff you see on the PlayStation 3 jailbreaking side, we're not going to see that for another few years. But granted, this is a huge leap in the right direction, and this will lead to all of that stuff. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? Because honestly, I'm quite excited about it. I want to see what happens here, and hey, you know what? We just have one more system now. Wii U's been cracked. PlayStation 4's been cracked. Let's see the Xbox One get broken into. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.